Okay, I'm not going to spend much time on these next few slides because there's a video link. I've got them arranged kind of in logical order, though. It's very rare for small business owners to get good at delegating. We're going to talk about managing your business as a system when we go through E-Myth Revisited. But before we get there, I just want to stress the importance of delegation. As your business hopefully grows, the time that you can spend on tasks will shrink. Eventually, hopefully, you will not be able to handle all of the roles yourself, and it will be time to delegate. Failure to delegate is often a special problem for entrepreneurs because of their backgrounds and personalities. Because they frequently must pay for mistakes made by subordinates, owners are inclined to be slow to relinquish control. Some of the problem, though, is just simply a matter of your habit or what you're used to doing, right? Many entrepreneurs become accustomed to doing everything themselves. This makes it difficult to turn over tasks to others when the business grows, and they truly need help with their expanded responsibilities. Some owners also may simply feel the need to continue doing those things that made the firm successful to begin with, or conclude that they just do them better than their employees. But you don't want to fall into that trap. It's going to be impossible for you to keep up with demand yourself. You want to design systems in a way where others can do what you do. So on this slide are a list of traps that people fall into why they don't delegate, and then 4 reasons why you should delegate. So copy that link at the bottom and watch that video on delegation. Okay, here's a second slide on delegation. This slide tells us the kind of things that should be delegated. You want to delegate routine tasks, things that have to happen every day, that are not necessarily super difficult and require a lot of different thinking, things that are kind of time consuming, and things that other people can do well. You also want to delegate interesting tasks. People are more motivated to do that, and so you'd probably rather keep those for yourself. It's a good idea, though. You have more successful outcomes when you delegate interesting tasks. All right, try to delegate tasks to people that fit their strengths, right? You want to think about the task and the person and try to make a good match there. Figure out, what the person's good at before you decide the kinds of tasks you're going to give them to do, and you try to handle other things. Fourth, delegate whole tasks that do not require others' help. Those things tend to be easier to monitor, right? So you can look at the job once it's done and you can say, okay, this was that person that did it. And you can decide and assess whether they did a good job or a poor job. And then you can, hopefully coach them to get better if it's not the job you want. Number 5, delegate time-consuming tasks. Don't do minimum wage actions. You should consider yourself a $50 an hour employee. You don't want to be doing minimum wage or close to minimum wage type tasks with your time. Right? So when I helped run a dairy farm, family dairy farm, my favorite job was just to get out in the field with the tractor and drive the tractor all day, whether it was, mowing the field or disking a field or chopping corn. I enjoyed being out there just driving around outside a little bit. You could let your mind wander a little bit. That was a task that anybody that worked for us could have done. And so, really, I need to be focusing on other things than in those type jobs. Things like taking care of the livestock, things like, working on equipment, those type things. 2 things not to delegate. Don't delegate leadership tasks. That's your responsibility as a leader to do those things. Don't tell somebody else to, run something that you should be running, or don't, if you need to correct an employee, don't have another employee do that for you. That's your job. When it comes to inspiring and getting the most out of people, that's your job as the leader. If you try to delegate that, it's not going to be as effective as if it's coming from the boss. All right. Also, do not want to delegate poorly defined tasks. If you can't clarify it, you probably shouldn't be passing it off. Um, if it's important, if it's that important, just keep doing it. If not, consider culling the task or get it to a place where it is well defined. All right, here is another slide where we have the video, right? This tells you how to delegate, the actual process that you want to put in place when you delegate. You don't just, willy-nilly say, go do that. There is best practice. There are best practices for the delegation process. And that video goes over what's on this slide. All right, as you're listening to this slide, try to recall the best manager or coach or teacher that you ever had. What made that person effective? And then also think about the worst one. What made them ineffective? I want to jot down those things. It's going to relate to the discussion board question at the end of the week. It's really important to keep employees happy. If you've ever had to quit a job, think about the reasons why you quit. There's a real difference between managers and leaders. As a small business owner, you have to wear both hats, though. Leadership is about getting people to understand and believe in your vision and to work with you to achieve your goals, while managing is more about administering and making sure that the day-to-day things that are happening should happen. Leadership is about people. Managing doesn't have to be about people, and it's more often about resources, time, decisions, but not necessarily people, not interacting with people, not getting the best out of people, not dealing with people. That's where leadership comes in. There are lots of important characteristics of great leaders, and it's also true that not every leader has the same characteristics. There's different ways of doing it. There's some types of leadership models that talk about transformational leadership, the ability to effectively communicate a vision, to work closely with subordinates to achieve that, and as a teacher and kind of as somebody that inspires them. It's about inspiration and getting buy-in. But there are other kinds of models that are about, being a servant, and there's the importance of integrity. Leadership is varied, and to an extent, people are born with different levels of leadership. Not everybody's born to be a great leader. That said, everybody can develop leadership skills to maximize their potential. And really, I don't believe there are many people out there that can't learn enough leadership skills to manage a small business. Almost anyone can do that, but it may be more work for some than others, right? Some people may, it may be a natural, maybe a very good fit. Others may have to work on leadership characteristics. So as you're thinking about the best manager, coach, or teacher that you've ever had, think about what made them successful. And as you're doing that, think about what are characteristics of a great leader. All right. Great leaders tend to have the following characteristics, or some of these characteristics, and these are all kind of leadership styles. And so some leaders have multiple skills and styles here. Some may really double down and emphasize one, but these are all ways of leading. So one way is to challenge, to set challenging and exciting high standards, and then expect excellence. And a lot of great leaders really do that. They set the bar high. There's somebody that is has shown themselves to be very competent, somebody that can be emulated and followed. They challenge. Another way that's kind of similar is a vision. You put a vision of the way things should be in front of people. You're always communicating that. You're always trying to help people understand the why behind that vision so that not just their heart, but their mind also buys in. So communicating a vision. Third, coaching. Coaching develops people to their maximum potential by encouragement, sharing knowledge, and establishing trust. This is more about small groups and one-on-one and getting the most out of people. All right? Team building. So some people lead by not by trying to push or pull towards the top, but by working on the bonds between different people in the team and work on that organizational harmony. And they do that by listening, by putting the right people together, by encouraging people to work together. So that's team building. There is the populist. They build consensus through participation. That's kind of like team building. Basically, this is someone who works to make sure that everyone buys into what it is that you're doing and allowing people to contribute to, the process of deciding what our goals are and how we're going to get there enables that buy-in. A style of leadership that really appeals to me is servant leadership. Great leaders lead by example and put others ahead of themselves. All right. And so I'm always inspired when I see somebody that's in authority kind of getting their hands dirty, right? Wading into the mess and really leading by example. All right. And then last but not least on this slide anyway is integrity. I think this one goes for all leaders. You have to be consistent and keep your word. I have noticed in sports that there's a lot of coaches that'll come into a new job and they'll do well for a year or two, and then it's like they lose their buy-in. And a lot of times it turns out that person was not a person of integrity. The players lose respect for the coach. The coach is not keeping their word. They're not doing what they told the player they were going to do when they maybe recruited the player, or they've just seen instances where the coach wasn't living up to the standards that they were asking others to live up to, and things fall apart. So integrity is really important. At the bottom, there is a link to about a 15 or 20-minute presentation by Simon Sinek about why good leaders make you feel safe. And I think it's a really strong, powerful video on leadership. Definitely watch that. I'm going to ask you to reference it in the question that you're going to have for the discussion board this week. A typical small business owner spends much of their work days on the front lines, meeting customers, solving problems, listening to employee complaints, talking with suppliers, etc. Here he tackles such problems with the assistance of only a small staff. Many small business managers spend 60 to 80 hours a week on the job. 13% of small business owners surveyed actually put in more than 80 hours a week. Such schedules lead to inefficient performance, especially when the entrepreneur has not made the necessary effort to set priorities in life and work. More than a third of entrepreneurs report having taken less than a week off during the past year. In extremely small companies, owners find it necessary to close the business during their absence. It's a huge problem, and poor time management skills have been listed as one of the main reasons why small business owners are unhappy and why small businesses fail. It's a big thing that we don't necessarily think a lot about when we think about how am I going to be a small business owner? What are the skills I need? One of the skills is time management. Okay, so here are some tips for effective time management. Number one, take a week, carry a schedule, and record all your thoughts, record all your conversations and activities in order to analyze how you're currently doing. Do you have a problem or not? All right, so you use that analysis as a jump-off point to figure out are you using your time wisely. Number two, schedule appointments for an activity that is important for your success. Keep those appointments. It may not be an appointment of something where somebody's holding your feet to the fire, but you may need to brainstorm about the future of the company. You may need to focus on marketing. You may need to figure out, what you're going to do in terms of hiring. You may need to manage cash flow, things that may not be urgent right now, but they are going to be issues coming up and they require that you do them, or you're going to be facing big issues down the road. Those are management, ownership, leadership, things that you have to focus on. Got to schedule time for those and keep those appointments. All right. Spend at least 50% of your time on the most important, money-making, important activities. So I said important twice there. The important thing here that you're not majoring on the minor, right? That you're spending your most hours of work doing things that are going to net you the most profit, rather than the tedium and the details that may be somewhat important, but they're not the most important thing. All right. Number four. Number four is something that I have done that has really helped me. I don't take a full 30 minutes, but I take about 5 or 10 minutes to plan out my whole day, down as close as I can to how I'm going to use all the time. And this is not wasted time. I've had some students argue with me and say this is a wasted 30 minutes, and why would you ever do that? You know, if you're the kind of person that's really naturally on top of things and knows exactly how you're going to spend your time anyway, it's kind of all in your head anyway. Yeah, you may be able to get away with not doing this, or it may not be as important to you. For a lot of people, for people like me, making that plan is going to ensure that you stick to it. Number five, take 5 minutes before each task to think about what you want to attain. Then take 5 minutes afterward to assess whether you got what you wanted. By doing kind of like the pre-game and post-game analysis of a given task, it makes you more effective in the task, and it makes you more effective for next time if you go back and evaluate how you do that. You wind up spending your time more wisely by taking those 5 minutes before or after, say, an hour-long task than you would if you didn't do that evaluation. So evaluate yourself, become kind of a critic of yourself in those ways. All right. Number six, don't instantly give people your attention, like a phone call or an email. You want to limit that time. You want to limit conference time, limit meetings, limit dead time. Number seven, block time-killing apps and distractions like social media. All right, so if you looked at my computer in my office, I've got like 6 or 7 things where I've wasted time in the past blocked right now. Things like social media, things like Twitter, things like sports and sports discussion boards. I used to play chess a lot. I blocked that. You want to block those time-killing apps and distractions. All right. Number 8, don't put off unpleasant or difficult tasks. Do them as soon as possible. Getting them done is actually going to relieve stress and enable you to do better with the rest of your things, right? So if you've got this big thing hanging over your head that you're dreading, that's actually making you less productive with everything else. Do the worst first. Do the worst thing first. Get that done. That's going to relieve stress. All right. Number 9 is kind of a caveat to all of these. Don't be too hard on yourself when not every minute is spent efficiently. Being too hard on yourself is going to feed number 8, the stress, and it's going to actually limit your ability to use your time as well as possible. All right. So don't be too hard on yourself when not every minute is perfect, right? You don't have to be a perfectionist. You just want to do your best, and then forget about those things where your time wasn't spent as well as it could be. Strive to do better next time, right? But don't beat yourself up over it all day. All right. So 9 tips for better time management.